I've encountered divergence in the Force.
You refer to the prophecy of the one who will bring balance to the Force.
Darkness rises, and light to meet it.
Hey everybody, hopefully you've had a chance to see the movie at least once. This is going to be my video addressing Episode 9 things, all the hanging plot threads, and the larger themes of the new trilogy, and how they're going to have to wrap everything up and where they might head from there. And the really cool thing is that J.J. Abrams just pitched the initial story, or at least the idea of Episode 9 to Disney CEO Bob Iger, and they gave the film a working title. The working title for Episode 8 was Space Bear. I'll explain what that means in a second, but Episode 9 is just being called Black Diamond right now. So that evokes some very specific imagery, like you're all thinking about the Darksaber right now, but just remember that the working title doesn't always mean something about the story or the characters or have any real relevance to the film itself. So just to give an example of that, Rian Johnson said that Space Bear was actually a joke that they said offhandedly behind the scenes while they were figuring the story out. So there is no actual Space Bear in the movie, it's not an Easter egg for anything. They just said that there was this story situation that they had to get the characters out of. They didn't know how they were going to solve it, so they joked that a Space Bear would fly in and save everyone. But if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get everything. I'm even doing an IMAX ticket giveaway that I'll explain at the end of the video. And just because I forgot to say it earlier in the video, careful for spoilers for Episode 8 because we'll be talking about very specific plot points. Number 10, minimum 1-year time jump to allow for a more recognizable empire to rise to power, like the new empire, whatever they're going to call it, because it's still called the First Order right now. And then that same duration of time to allow the rebellion to replenish their supplies, because they're sort of calling themselves the new rebellion now, whereas they used to be just the resistance. But number 9, in this time period, because Kylo Ren is effectively unchallenged, there's no resistance to combat the First Order, they will have effectively taken over. It is settled into his role as Supreme Leader, because he doesn't spend that much time as actual Supreme Leader during the movie. He just flies down to the surface of Crate, has everybody blast Luke Skywalker's Force Spirit, then flies away after he fails to kill everyone. But number 8, that time jump will also allow you to explain what happens to Leia because Carrie Fisher passed away. So they could even begin the opening crawl with giant capital letters. General Solo is dead, but her tireless work to replenish the rebellion against the First Order has been successful. And then go into a couple of sentences explanation for why there's a new rebellion, why they have more ships, and how everyone was inspired by her, and she died peacefully, paving the way for Poe Dameron to become a more balanced leader. So it just seems like they're setting him up to take more of a leadership role in the next film. But because both of these forces are rising, darkness rises and light to meet it, so you have two different Jedi rising up, but you also have two different fleets rising up. There is an actual Star War that happens. It's not like one group of people chase the other group of people across the galaxy. You have a genuine giant space battle. But number 6, getting into more of the Jedi stuff, Rey constructs a new lightsaber out of the pieces of Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber. There's a kyber crystal that was seen clearly at the end of the film, so she has all the pieces that she needs, but she also has the Jedi books, which probably have more instructions about how to modify lightsabers. And because she favors the staff, also big prediction, it will be a double-bladed lightsaber that may or may not be a different color. There were a lot of you that were asking me questions about the specific color of Anakin's crystal in that lightsaber, because as it was exposed, it looked white. So naturally, a lot of you were wondering if that means that Rey's lightsaber is going to be white, just like Ahsoka's lightsaber, because technically Ahsoka left the Jedi Order and crystals are attuned to Jedi. They played a little bit with the lore of kyber crystals and the meaning of the different colors, but for the most part, I don't think there are going to be a lot of changes in the actual hue of the lightsaber. I think it's just going to be double-bladed, and if anything, it would be white. I don't think it's going to be yellow or purple, Samuel L. Jackson style. I don't think they're going to get too crazy with colors. But number 5, Kylo Ren talking about his downfall. So he's shown he's fixated on things like daddy issues. He has the biggest daddy issues of anybody else in this film. Rey has some minor daddy issues because she wants to know who her parents are, so she starts to put that on Luke. Kylo Ren even calls her out on it a little bit. He goes crazy when he sees the Millennium Falcon blast that piece of garbage out of the sky. He also knew that Rey was on it, so like Luke Skywalker says, "Kill me and I'll be with you forever, just like your father." He's lashing out against his father. Anytime he sees the Millennium Falcon, he goes crazy. But he's also lashing out against Rey because of her rejection of him. he's myopically fixated on people and things to the detriment of logic, and that's going to be his ultimate downfall, along with his rivalry with Hux, who we'll talk about in a second. But number 4, pretty easy one to predict. Luke Skywalker will return as a Force ghost multiple times, wants to give Rey advice when she desperately needs it, tell some jokes, Yoda style, because Luke told a lot of jokes during Last Jedi, but I think we're also all expecting some sort of mirror moment for the end of Return of the Jedi where you have multiple Force ghosts staring at Rey as Luke used to be the future of the Force in the galaxy. All their hope for the future was rested in him, and they wanted to show him how proud they were of him. I think there'll be a similar type moment for Rey's character at the end of the trilogy with a slight twist. The people that show up during that Force Ghost parade I think will just be a little bit different. Like in the original one, it was Anakin, Yoda, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. So there's been a lot of question about who can become Force Ghosts, and there's been a lot of time spent developing that in canon. So you have Qui-Gon, who was the first person to learn how to do it. He passed that on to Yoda, then Yoda passed it on to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Presumably Obi-Wan Kenobi showed up and passed that on to Luke, so that's how Luke learned how to become a Force Ghost. But at the moment, I'm kind of 50-50 on this, but the way they bend the rules of the Force for these movies in service of really big WTF moments, number 3, it's also possible that they'll allow Leia to show up as a Force Ghost at the very end, because she seemed relatively powerful when she auto-used the Force to get herself out of the vacuum of space. Number 2, this is a pretty easy slam dunk. Kylo Ren, Rey, lightsaber fight rematch, but in a slight twist on the Return of the Jedi idea. I do believe there's going to be a hopeful spin, and I'll explain why in a second. That because the Emperor of this trilogy, the Snoke character, is already dead, Hux will ascend to the position of most hateable character. So Kylo Ren is being positioned as the main villain of the third film, but ultimately I think that Rey will balance him out. There'll be some balance in the Force, paving the way for Hux to be the standard villain that you punch in the face, because that seems to be his role. He's either used for slapstick comedy or as a straight-up Nazi, so there's no redemption for his character. He's either going to die in a hilarious way or in a twist on the Emperor's throne room battle, but not a direct reference to that, because they kind of already did that moment during Last Jedi. But number 1, here's a real big one about Kylo Ren and Rey in the future of the Jedi Order. So darkness rises, light to meet it. It's all about balance in the Force. Remember that idea, but also the idea that these new movies are very clearly trying to move past the idea of Skywalkers in Skywalker blood. Luke even makes a joke about mighty Skywalker blood. So even if Kylo Ren crawls out of this trilogy alive, he fathers no children, and there are effectively no more Skywalkers. Depending on how you look at it, there could be some mystery Luke children out there. Mark Hamill said that he wrote himself a non-canonical version of Luke's backstory where he had a wife that died, so there could always be a child out there somewhere that they talk about in the expanded universe in the novels or something like that, but I'm just not expecting them to continue with the idea of Skywalkers in the films beyond the idea of Force Ghosts. So there will always be Skywalker stuff in the Star Wars universe, but I think that largely will flow through Luke Skywalker's Force Ghost character as he gives advice to Rey in whatever her future is after Episode 9. So the reason why I don't think it's ultimately Rey's destiny to kill Kylo Ren, unless she's planning on dying too, is because replacing darkness with light is not balance. Balance is darkness and light coexisting at the same time. Luke's conversation with Rey about the dark side cave on Ahch-To is exactly like Snoke's conversation. It exists on the island simultaneously with all of the light side of the Force. So the whole idea of darkness rising and light to meet it is that they're both meant to be two sides of one character, and that character is the Force itself, the thing that binds all life in the galaxy. So ultimately, that sounds like a more hopeful ending, even though there's a lot of WTF battles that have to happen before that can go down. So let me know in the comments the whole idea of balancing the Force, not replacing darkness with light. What do you think the future of the movies are? How do you think that Kylo Ren and Rey's story is going to end? Congratulations to the latest giveaway winner, 92. Please private message me on the back end of my channel so I can get your contact details. I'll just announce a new winner the next time I post a new Star Wars video. You can click here for all my Easter eggs, and you can click here for my top 10 WTF questions after the end of the film. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.